There's Craig. Hi,
Hi,
Craig.
Greg.
Hi, Mike. You're not
Hi.
Jay.
I'm not.
You're not. It's the Jay replacement tour. He's sick. He's sick, but
Impostor.
he's good enough to play video games instead. I hated that excuse when I was a child. Like, if you're too sick to go to school, you're too sick to play video games. Like, I can play Mario Brothers with my eyes closed, half asleep. I can't go to school because I'll infect everybody and I'll pass out from, exhaustion. I'm
Very
laying on a
valid.
couch.
Other people's health is important too, and
Yeah.
you shouldn't wish your sickness on them. But why mope in misery? Play video games.
So yeah, that's right. If you're sick and it's time for D&D, you can call out. Everyone shouldn't give you shit because you called out because you were sick because they don't want to get sick.
Yeah, that is a valid reason to not go in person to D&D.
Yeah.
But if you play online, like, I don't care if you're sick.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can stay active and stuff and you
No,
can have
I know.
fun.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Sometimes.
hi Mike. Who are
Hi,
you?
I'm Mike, also known
Mike.
as Michael, and I am done DMing for a while.
So for those who don't know, on our D&D stream, Mike here is my normal player, and I decided to take a break for a little while, kind of get back some creative juices and whatnot, and spend some time doing other creative works. And my player, I'm just going to call DM Mike because it just makes more sense to me now. Um, Decided to fill in for me, me being Christopher, the Grumpy Dungeon Master, and he ran us through all of the Fandelver and pretty much all of the Essentials kit. So overall, how was your experience first timing DMing for a full campaign?
It was pretty good. I will say, the burnout factor, like I kind of feel like I have experienced that in a sense. Like I got to a point where I had everything planned out already, and I was just like, okay, let's go. Let's get to the end. I'm ready. Let's finish it. But there was also the other side of, if we don't fish it, it's okay. I have it all prepped out. We're good. At least we got something to do. But it was good. Ran Lost Mines of Fandelver. Fandelver. Yes, Lost Mines of Fandelver, because Fandelver is the mine, Phandalin is the town. In case you
I
didn't
don't.
know.
I still don't care.
Yeah,
It's all
but
Fandelver.
I ran that pretty much by the book and
Yeah.
module and stuff. I did do some small creative liberties as the DM, but for the most part, I wanted to kind of run that, you know, by the book ish, excluding when the players decided to do some creative problem solving. And then because of that creative problem solving, I was like, it would be a shame for you to lose out on this XP, so I'm just gonna put it in another area. And
So
because we did the whole campaign off XP, which also was new, because that's how Lost Mines of Phandelver is written, is to do everything by XP. But then you go into the Essentials kit, which is also a starting like thingamajig, and it's done by milestone. But
yeah,
it's still pretty translatable. If you're used to doing everything by XP, you still level up appropriately.
yeah. The problem with XP though is that if you run just XP, you wind up in this weird situation where you're just killing people to level up.
Yeah.
And we made that joke so many times on the stream. We're like, well, maybe we should kill this ranger guy, get another 150 experience points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like when you're in an open world setting, it's really easy to kind of like have a bunch of players participate in something where they get to use their abilities, and you can give them experience points based on that. But when the story is just like go from point A to point B to point C and kill everything in between, and then you're level 3. It's really hard to kind of like have them go out of the way and do anything creative or fun beyond just murder everything for experience points.
Yeah, I think after running it with XP and doing modules at least, I can't speak for homebrew campaigns or anything, but I think the motivation changes a little bit um, to where you're more motivated about leveling up versus doing the milestones of kind of the story. Um,
Yeah.
so your motivation as a player kind of is skewed because I mean, I get it. I'm a player. I want my character to get powered up and be super cool. So for the next fight, he can do all the things. And so I'm going to go out of my way to purposely seek encounters that will give me XP. Whereas maybe before, if I know it's story driven and I just have to get to a certain point in the story and then I'll level up, uh, I would probably problem solve differently in a milestone than I would in an XP. Whereas in XP, I just, yeah, let's kill it. I need the XP.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part. It's just, oh, here's a way to encounter. I mean, like you can always just give them the encounter XP at
Right.
the end, but
Which there were times that if you did talk to people or went past stuff, I was trying to be um, cognizant of that at the same time to reward you for things as well. I mean, there was times when I didn't really think about it, and then you ask the question, "Do we get XP for turning this in?" And I'm like, "No, because I didn't think about it." But there was other times like where if you missed an encounter or not I wouldn't say missed, but you talked to people that you could have fought and you just kept going, I gave you XP for it still.
yeah, that's why it's really hard sometimes with experience, and milestone just feels better because you can always give people the levels at a certain like story point, and it feels satisfactory.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing experience for the Waterdeep one that we play in November,
Mm.
um, because that's an open world environment. I'm gonna let you guys kind of drive the story as much as you guys want.
Yeah.
So experience points works for that. So
I still don't
you're not
know
going to
if
get
it'll
as
make
many experience points for you know participating in like a fair or something like that, but you get some. You know.
right. Yeah. Um I and again this just my personal opinion. I think, milestone helps you focus kind of more on storytelling in a
Yeah.
sense and D&T as a whole is a collective storytelling experience. Everybody should be contributing to it.
Right.
So,
So,
just
since you ran through the module and everything, and the module comes out next year as a full campaign setting,
oh, yes. Which
which,
probably will be much better put together because if you read the Essentials Kit module, it's very like Lost Mines is set up to be your standard kind of module that all the other ones are written as. It tells you the story, it tells you the background and why you're doing stuff. Essentials doesn't really give you the background, doesn't tell you why you're doing things. It starts at level 1 and then it goes to 6. And it's just like, "Hey, there's some quests on this board. You want to do them?" "Oh, you
no,
did a quest on the board? Okay, well wow, there's new postings on the board. That's so crazy. You gonna do those?" And then you do them, and you progress after you do a certain amount of these job postings. It kind of reminds me of like if there was an adventurers guild in the
yeah,
town, but there isn't one. And you're
just the
not,
board.
yeah, there's just the board, and presumably the town master is putting up the boards, the postings and stuff, and then eventually it gets to, oh no, there's a dragon, and then there's a job posting to go kill the dragon. and it's very storyline wise. It's very I don't know, meh. But
Yeah,
in the same sense, it's open ended. So as the DM, which you have the choice to create your own story and just throw that job board out the window. I think it'd
yeah,
be a good tool for a brand new guy who has no idea what they're doing. Um, but I didn't like that, but I liked the different modules, the places that you could send you, and I tied them into my own story, and I homebrewed, did some flavorings with everything. So the second half of our campaign, I did a lot more improv in that sense.
yeah,
I don't know if it showed.
yeah.
It,
I mean, I haven't read the Essentials kit, so I didn't know who
yeah,
was what
which
or.
helps, and I appreciate because when I tried to improv or do things differently in the first half of the campaign, you're like, "This isn't what we did in my last playthrough."
I don't know. It's so much fun retelling the first playthrough, man, because you're
Yeah,
burning down the end
which
of like,
I think it was something hard to compete with in that sense
yeah.
because you had such fond memories of the first time that you played
You
through,
better live up to it, Mike.
and your playthrough was definitely not what Wizards of the Coast imagined for Lost
No.
Mines at all. Kind of like how our um whatchamacallit, the Frost Maiden campaign that we had.
Yeah.
Uh, we went completely off books, and if you talk to Wizards of the Coast, they said, "Yeah, that was not how that was supposed to be played by any means."
They're not supposed to join the bad guys.
Yeah, right. And that's what we did in Frostmated. We just like, let's flip this script and do what we want, which made it a really fun and memorable campaign. And I think that should be the goal for any
Yeah.
game, really.
I
Do
mean,
I think that's what I achieved with my campaign? Not by any means. Was it
no,
fun?
there's a
Sure.
couple memorable memories.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely more in the second half because it's more new because you establish new ones
Right.
better. But like I had forgotten, some critical plot details from the first one because it was been for so long.
Yeah.
Like I remember that Venom Fang was in Thunder Tree, and I knew it was a dragon that if we fucked with him, he was gonna kill us.
Yeah.
I knew that,
Yeah.
and I knew my character being the chaotic evil dragonborn follower Tiamat that it was gonna fuck with it. I had no idea how you were gonna handle that. I completely
I
forgot that there were cultists in that
yeah.
village too. So
Yeah.
that helped a lot.
I liked the Okay, so the first few episodes were kind of rough with Atan, and then you kind of settled into the character a little bit more. I liked the chaos and stuff that he brought to it, but at the same time, it was talked about when we were playing the game shortly after you talked about it on the podcast about what you were doing with your character, and Jay was just like, yeah, no, you should have died. The other players, their characters should have killed you by now. Like, you are way too chaotic evil."
But they
Uh,
were they were just so kind of just whatever.
you, yeah, right. And so that aside, whatever blunders are going to happen. It's not something fun to address at the table where you're going to kill off a player PvP right from the go. Um, and I don't think everybody was comfortable with that setting versus the last time we did PvP. Uh, the three of us all just murder hoboed another player, and everybody was cool with it. This case, I don't think it was necessarily what people were thinking about. They were just kind of like aghast at your character's actions.
It's like
Anyways,
we're just done with him.
right.
We're not gonna deal with him anymore. Maybe he'll go away eventually.
But Atan kind of leveled out a little bit more. His chaotic evil side was a little bit more subtle down the road. He got with the program and of starting like trying to actually help out and do not so chaotic things. And storyline why it came together because I had a lot of stuff that I transferred into the second part of the campaign after Atan left. Um, that I was going to like bring in to kind of address the crazy stuff that he'd been doing around town. But then Atan was gone, so the police force couldn't arrest him, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which Cambion, as a copper dragon, he was definitely gonna try and he was if Atan was still around. Oof. Which spoiler alert, the
Tom
one
would
of
have
the
won.
main NPCs in the campaign that I brought in Homebrewed was a adult copper dragon that likes to interfere with humans' lives because it's fun and he likes
Because they
telling
all do.
jokes. Yes. Yeah.
So, did you have any problems other than kind of like dealing with players being dumbasses? Because that's all that we were half the time. Were there any issues with the
No.
story?
No, so I will say I had a pretty good like outline and roadmap of what I wanted to happen storyline wise, and y'all did really good at following it without me really having to herd you. I gave you the hints, I gave you the little simple thingamajigs, and everybody followed them really good. I didn't have to like, oh, you're off the path. Come on back in, or reel you in or anything. Which I think helped. Everybody kind of understood. Or I don't know as if they understood or like it was unspoken agreement that we weren't gonna cause trouble for me. Which, if you had, that's fine. I'd figure it out. It's an experience to do.
I don't
But
try to derail a DM, but I try to derail a DM.
there was one last night when we were playing. I had the storyline built out, and you killed the white dragon at the keep, and I had intended. I rolled multiple times to see if Cloud Scale, the second dragon, was gonna show up and like attack y'all while you were there. Luckily, you were very stealthy up until the end when you started killing the white dragon, so that didn't cause her to try and attack you while you're in the keep and start flying around and stuff. Um, but after you killed her and you started going back to the town, I forgot travel time. And in my brain, I initially thought, oh, they're gonna, without travel time or whatever, they're gonna walk up to the town. It's gonna be on fire. The dragon's already gonna be flying around, burning things, and then it's gonna come to you. And then I realized, oh yeah, there's travel time. So I guess I'll have him burn the town and then fly off to the hills, wait in like ambush, because he knows you'll likely be coming that way.
And then we were like, let's skip Fandelvin and just never go back there.
Yeah.
let's just let's go
Uh,
elsewhere. And then I was thinking to myself, like, if we do that, this won't be the end of the campaign.
I mean, if you did, then I'm like, okay, then everybody lives happily ever after, and you hear news about this town that got destroyed by a dragon, and I don't know. You never get to cash in, or Rumbled and Gemma never get to cash in on their mine savings.
So, did you regret giving us the dragon slaying musket?
I regret giving you the musket.
Like anyone else would have given it up to somebody else.
Yeah. And I will give it to myself that I truly said that when I created, so the sword in and of itself has a set stats,
It
and
can
it
only
can
be
only
bladed weapons,
yeah,
essentially.
it can only be bladed weapons. So like a two-handed sword, a long sword, a short sword, scimitar, um, and I
And
might
I
be
think a
missing.
rapier.
Yeah, rapier. So no like pikes or halberds or anything like that. So I was like, the one person that was perfect for this weapon died because I killed them. And what am I gonna do with this MacGuffin? Because the MacGuffin was written into the module, although there was no storytelling way to actually get you there. It was just there, and they're like, yeah, oh yeah. That's another thing that's really weird about the Essentials kit is that there's like 5 locations that are in the book, but they have nothing to do with the story, and they're just there, and they're like, yeah, we just threw this into the book because we thought it was neat, but there's no storytelling tie-in. So use it if you want, I guess. So
Hmm.
that it was in the book, and I'm like, man, I need to use this. So I tied it in, and I'm like, okay, I can be like, NPC was doing some research. He knows about this tomb that has a sword, dragon killing sword. This would be really helpful for them because they think that they're gonna go kill a dragon, right?
Right.
And uh, since there was nobody that was perfect for using that sword, I told myself whoever picks it up, it's gonna morph to be whatever shape best suits the person wielding it, which I think is a neat thing for a magical weapon that it could just change. Kind of like a semi sentient weapon, which kind of gives you a not legendary, but almost pseudo legendary weapon. Gave +2 stats and it did extra damage to dragons. Really useful. Did I think that the hippo gun wielding guy was going to go up there and pick up a sword and be like, yeah, this is perfect for me? No. But I held to my guns and I made it morph into a musket with a bayonet on it.
The bayonet. Shelly was so mad about the
Yeah.
bayonet when we were going in there stabbing people with it. She's like, it's bullshit that you can stab people with that fucking thing. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, it really is. Um,
I mean, I flavored it with a bayonet because it's supposed to be a bladed weapon, so like why
yeah,
wouldn't I, make it a musket with a bayonet on it?
yeah.
Um so
Hey, some weapons like magic weapons that is could just break a campaign. Like when we played
yeah.
the Owl campaign, and I gave you guys the Vorpal sword. That was intentional,
Right.
knowing who
Yep.
the end boss was and all that.
Yeah.
But I had built the end boss to be able to survive a couple hits from it. Now, I don't know if they planned on having.
I
Um,
I so the base stats white dragon, if you're supposed to be level 6 by the time you fight it,
yeah,
or at least you're level 5 at the very minimum. And base stats with the sword, like I don't it presumably a fighter or paladin or something would be wielding it, so they'd have 2 attacks. I don't really that thing would wreck a young white dragon. You yeah.
I mean,
Anyways.
yeah,
But yeah, I buffed up the end boss so much because I knew y'all's damage potential, and I wanted to survive at least a couple rounds, because like you
we
killed the
still two
white
rounded.
dragon, and yeah, the white dragon died in like 1 round. So
So
yeah,
yeah, it just the balance of that sword dealing as much damage as it does is because at best you're going to get one reactionary attack to the dragon as it swoops by and hits you with its claws.
yeah,
You're not going to stand there and get two. If the dragon decides to stand toe to toe with you with that bladed weapon, it's just going to it's just going to die because it's a D8 plus 3D6 plus
right,
modifiers. It's a lot of damage. So one of those attacks a turn isn't going to break anything, but it's definitely going to swing it to your favor.
right.
And then the fact that I can basically be a ranger, stack all the ranger shit into it, and
Yeah.
then shoot the dragon twice. It was just like, yeah, it's dead.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, to be fair though, Dimitri did a lot of the damage with his fighter in that ballista you made. Because
yeah, the
that's really what whittled it down was that ballista.
for the final fight when we fought it was just on a normal blue, right? It was an adult one, was it?
No, it was so young blue dragon stats.
Or yeah, okay, so it was a
So
young
for
blue then.
attacks, yeah, for attacks and stuff for his damage, but I buffed up his health and then I gave him legendary resistances. I
Okay.
gave him 3 legendary resistances and then I doubled his health.
So that makes sense. So yeah, my entire plan, the entire campaign was to take this GIF who's used to firearms and stuff, and basically take one of those ballistas and modify it down so I could basically shoot, the dragon twice with it. And
Right.
that was going to be my way of dealing more damage to the dragon if possible. And threw that out the window the second I picked up that musket. And then I
Mm-hmm.
remembered afterwards, like, oh yeah, we could have the fighter use the ballista.
Yeah.
So the ballista was always going to be my strategy. And a 3d10 and the fact that I could make it magical from the ranger stuff, that was my my thought to the whole like getting around the dragon's resistances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, the armor that you gave us, I don't know, we're supposed to pick up so many different sets of that, but that helped a lot.
Well, the
Uh,
first set was from Lost Mines.
okay, all
That
right,
that was in there. Well, I actually buffed it because it was supposed to be a plate or breastplate, and I was like, no one wants another set of medium armor because everybody already was good on medium armor. Um, Atan was like really the only one that wore it. Gemma wears it too, but Atan had an adamantine one,
yeah,
and Gemma made her armor magical anyways.
yeah,
So I was like, Rumble takes a lot of hits and stuff. Like, let me help him out, be a little bit more tanky. So I gave him plate. I upgraded it. Same magical item. I just made it plate instead of a breastplate.
yeah.
Um,
And going straight to plate is huge. I mean, half plate probably would have been a better call with
yeah,
magical half plate.
I mean, lessons learned. Okay,
Lessons learned.
lessons learned. And then the second one I put in there because it wasn't in the module, but it just made sense that it would be there with the Dragon Slayer. And that
Yeah,
one I kept as breastplate. Or actually, I made it as plate, but I made it modifiable so that you could have a medium or heavy, medium, and then light version of it.
that's the one
So
thing I
I
never
just wanted to
understood
be
too.
happy with y'all. I don't know. I just wanted to be gracious. I wanted to be a nice DM that gives nice things to his players.
Yeah,
And then
but
when
that
you
can
break
ruin
it,
that
that's
that
why we
can
can't have nice things.
and that ruins so many games. Like there's so many times I see on Reddit, it's like I gave my players too many magic items, and now I can't make an encounter to beat them. And
Yeah.
then like actually I saw this about a week ago, and the guy's like, well, how many magic items do they have? It's like, well, they have about 117 items,
Oh
and
my goodness.
the MacGuffin item that I needed to identify is one of those items, and they just didn't like it or cared for it, so they just threw it in their vault. And how do I make them go back and get it? And I'm just like, gotta give them the MacGuffin again and make it more worth it.
or you make it them come if they have to have the MacGuffin item, they can't progress further, or they go do something else. Like,
Yeah,
sorry, you have to scrap that part of your story, or you have to ride around it to essentially force like they can't go any further because they don't have that MacGuffin, and make it obvious that they need the MacGuffin. I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
It is weird how much it plate armor breaks the game in
mhm.
fifth edition. Because like if you give a fighter plate armor like before like level three or before, they're just unstoppable because they have 20 AC at that point in time. Because normally they'll just wear a shield
I mean,
and
yeah, it depends, but in my case, like with Augustus, he was a ranger that wore plate armor. you gave him to him. I don't feel like it broke the game in that situation because he maxed out
No,
at 18
he
AC.
he maxed out at 18. 18 is not as detrimental as 20.
Right.
So like if you would have been running around with a shield, like if you got the plate and then went, okay, I'm gonna use a shield now and started running around with that, I would have been fucked. Like there's no way.
Well, and that was his whole thing is that
Yeah,
he was a two-handed type of guy. He went all in like that.
yeah,
So it was okay. And Rumbled's kind of was the same situation when I gave him plate mail,
yeah,
albeit it was a +1, so that made it maybe a little bit worse. But he was a pike guy. He wasn't gonna do a shield. He's very big on I like my pike. I ain't gonna use nothing else. Pike, pike, pike. Stab.
right.
Um, but yeah. I also felt so when I gave you the dragon slaying sword and when I gave that second set of dragon armor, um, it was the second to last session. And then the
Yeah,
last session was last night when um that was the finale. You were
yeah,
I knew you were gonna fight a couple dragons. Like you even fought a dragon the night before when you picked up those equipment immediately afterwards.
yeah.
And um, I did it because I just wanted you to be well prepared. But I also was able, after you fought the young green dragon, I'm like, okay, now I know how to gauge this. I know how the young white dragon's going to go, so I can buff my real foe, which was the albino blue dragon.
Yeah, because I was wearing that on the stream the night before because like I knew there was a white dragon on the cover of Icewind or the Ice
Yeah,
Spider
it's kind of a
Essential Kit.
spoiler alert. Let's put our
Yeah,
big bad on the cover, which
right.
I mean they do
So
for
like,
all the modules, really.
and I know just from my experience that the hierarchy always goes white green. I think was it white green,
Yeah,
black
white.
blue red.
Yeah, the lowest.
So, and I knew if we could destroy the green that fast, that white didn't stand a chance. And so I was actually quite curious how you were going to actually swap around and change the bad guy at the end, whether it be add another dragon or is it going to add a couple more dragon? Because we could probably handle 3 white dragons.
Yeah,
I'm not
realistically, yeah, probably.
sure, but if you go up to like just a normal white dragon, even before adult, I don't think we could have beat that. This is that's like CR13, I think,
What's
and that would have been
it's
too much.
Rimeling, then young, then adult, and then ancient, I believe. And then there's the great rhyme after ancient.
Yeah, so the adult white is a CR13.
Yeah.
And you said you just had us fight a young blue, right?
Yeah, you fought a young white, you fought a young green, then a young white, and then you fought a young blue. But the young blue uh, had twice as much health and legendary resistances.
So
So
honestly, that probably bumps it up to CR13 or so.
yeah, yeah, the young
Yeah,
blue, uh, health wise, I think was on par with an adult. Uh,
as an adult white. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it was a decent fight. I'm glad we won.
yeah.
The second you said, "Oh, but it chooses to save instead," I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, well, I was also I said that and I'm like, I'm ready for the criticism. Someone's gonna be like, oh, that's not the stat blocks. I was
No,
gonna
I don't.
get
You're not
rules
gonna get that
lawyered.
from any of us. Like
I know.
it. It's an albino. It's an albino blue dragon. That's your creation. It can
Yeah.
have whatever you want to give it,
Yeah.
albeit that it had 300 hit points and legendary assistances.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I kept the damages to be the right um kind of in the 2 hits to be the right kind of playing field because
yeah,
if I had bumped it up to an adult blue dragon stats and then padded the health, because adult blue dragon does have legendary resistances.
right.
but he only has 225 HP, and I gave the one you fought 300.
Yeah. Well, you also made the dragon huge too, and so that kind
Yeah.
of technically updates its D10 hit die to a D12 hit die. So honestly, it would have
Yeah.
been another 30-ish hit points just from there. So,
Yeah. Yep.
and then this one's from space, so it gets the space modifiers.
Yes. The art that I found online said Space Dragon in the bottom right. So that was the catchphrase the whole stream. Space
Space.
Dragon!
Yeah, it was a good final fight. We did run late, like you said.
Yeah.
It always happens on final campaign nights. Um, and I think we did good. Even with the one player going down near the end. Now my shot that took out your dragon, did that
That that
0 hit
killed it.
points?
Yes.
Okay.
I took it to 0 hit points, but for somatics and storytelling, that I wanted to change it, and I saw the look on your face, and I felt like you were a little disappointed, like I stole the kill from you. Uh, but I also
Kinda.
know that a tool as a DM or whatever, fights don't have to end when the MacGuffin dies. You could just
Right.
have a set limit of, okay, you hit the limit, or I needed you to hit it 10 times. Um, and if you attack it with non-magical attacks, it only counts for 1 hit. But if you attack it with magical attacks, it counts for 2 hits or something like that, so you could burn it down faster. The
Yeah.
different like milestones or whatever. So I use his hit points as when he hits 0 hit points, that's when he's gonna like start retreating, and then I was gonna bring in thematically my other dragon to attack it, kill it, and then kind of do the shock and awe factor of, oh, this gun or sword that I was using isn't really mine, and it has like an actual owner that has more like domination powers over it, basically.
Yeah.
And kind of use
And
use it like Thor's hammer.
you did hint at that earlier too.
Right.
I don't know. It's really weird. So like as players, having an NPC come in and get the killing blow feels horrible. You know,
Yeah.
uh, no matter how thematic or how cool. Like from a storytelling standpoint, you know, it writes great. That's the way it should be. But when it comes to D&D, having an NPC swoop in at the end, even if it is a thematic kill, it still feels kind of bad. And that's just because I think with D&D in particular, or any tabletop in particular, there's more of an ownership to how the story unfolds from the player side.
Yeah.
So even though we did kill it, and I knew that that probably was the last final blow, and I brought it to 0. The cutscene death thing, unless it's established beforehand, it just feels really weird and it feels out of
Yeah.
place. If we
Yeah.
had established that with
I
him
have a
ahead of time,
counter
like
question.
yeah,
If you establish that ahead of time, doesn't it ruin the storytelling element of it? The kind of surprise of, oh yeah, cool.
not
And
really,
because
because you wanted to
if
keep it a
you
surprise.
set it up ahead or whatever, it doesn't make it a surprise anymore if you wanted it that.
Right.
I
It's
guess.
the surprise that kind of from a if you're telling a movie or you're having a cutscene, it works really well.
Mm.
But like if you had set it up beforehand that hey, I'm a cop of dragon or whatnot, and we found that out through surprise or something, and then he's like, go kill the dragon. I'm gonna protect the village while you do, and he comes up later to kind of get the final blow, and it's a little bit less. But I know
Yeah.
Jay, if he were here, he would have absolutely hated that. But then again, I was fine with it. Um, because I just knew that we were the ones that had killed it, and this was a cutscene essentially. Some
Yeah.
people like it a lot, some people don't. That's you know
It was also uh rushed there at the end too. A lot of the
yeah,
at the
that's
end of the end of the session stuff was very I felt
we
rushed,
were
which
45 minutes over.
Yes, and I'm sure everybody wanted to go to bed because it was almost one
Yeah,
in the morning.
that's the
But
appropriate time to use an NPC to wrap up a fight.
yeah, and
All
to
right,
be
kids, get to
honest,
bed.
God forbid, I didn't think this was going to happen at all. But if God forbid I'm kicking your butt with this one dragon and I'm about to wipe the floor with you and only one of you still standing, I was going to have the copper dragon come in and do that thematic kind of like save your butts too. Um,
See, that would have
so I
made me
had
really sad because I would have rather wipe than that.
yeah. Well, I had it in mind because while they were all hiding out in Axholm and he was defending that, presumably the town's been burning for all night, right? Because you were traveling and then half the day to get there, so they would have seen it, or if they had scouts out from the fort that they were hiding in, they would have seen it, and then would have gotten back to Cammy, and then he would have, as the protector, quote unquote, would have tried to like save the town and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So, um, I don't know. It was just an idea that I had in my head that
yeah,
I'm part of the story too, okay? I can have that NPC was my character.
yeah. But that's the thing that's what people will point at too. It's like, well, that's just his character. He's having a power trip, and I know that's not the case, but
I
um,
mean,
I've seen plenty of crit crabs where the GM's got like, well, I got my NPC over here, and he is super powerful. Like even when I wrote Ice Devil, I had written Thaladred, which is my character, which is me.
yeah,
He was super powerful, and then the question came back, it's like, well, why isn't he doing it?
right.
Why isn't he going up to the mountain
Well,
and taking care of this?
I think that question gets asked for any NPC that seems like they have a modicum of power that
Yeah,
isn't a peasant, like
yeah,
a commoner. And you could pose that question to like a king or something. Like let's say it's an emperor king and he's famed and renowned for being this super cool like conqueror, and he goes out and fights a lot of the battles himself, right? Well, why is he hiring adventurers to go do it? Why doesn't he just do it himself? Well, sometimes people don't want to go do things themselves. I don't
yeah.
know.
That was
There's
it was kind of dickish of your guy going, look, I just wanted to play with you guys. I was just like, fucking dragons, man. I hate
yeah.
all you.
Well, so I don't want to say a lot because I'm sure there's people that have done more research than me, but I had a lot of downtime where I was reading about the different dragons, and I would keep continuously go back to their like little info thingamajigs between the lines and look at the different types of dragons. And I'd like to say my fair share of research about dragons and what their mannerisms are, and they released the new whatchamacallit book, dragons
Fizz
book.
bangs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fizzbangs. So I was reading that on the updated stuff, looking for cool nuggets of information, and I was like, "Oh, well this makes perfect sense of why they're doing the thing. A lot of metallic dragons just kind of like play with them, and then copper dragons in particular, like they love telling jokes. They love having people to talk to and stuff to entertain them. A lot of dragons will take the guise of human people and then just like send adventurers on quests just for shits and giggles, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's a really good explanation for him, and that worked out really well.
Yeah. So, and I was just trying to wrap it up. I had that idea in my head for how to conclude the campaign. The whole time I'm sitting there like, oh, how's Shelly gonna judge me on how I wrapped up this campaign? She probably hated it. She hated how we wrapped up um, our
And,
Frost Maiden campaign, and I
tell you what,
really liked the Frost Maiden campaign ending, but maybe because my character's a doppelganger, and I like to imagine that he changed forms into a wizard and then pretended to be a wizard for the next century.
ending campaigns are tough.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would it felt like more of an accomplishment if he had just died there and then the cop and dragon landed. But you know,
Yeah,
to each their own.
yeah.
You know,
And
I knew
if
something
I
was
could go
up
back
with
in
that.
time,
Yeah,
that's probably how I should have done it. Um, but
but
I
for
can't
everyone
go back in
listening,
time.
now they know.
Yeah.
I knew something was up with your guy because, like you said, I mentioned this on the stream that his name was
Mhm.
Cambion, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, this better not be a fiend. Like,
He's not
is
bold
Mike?
enough to have a fiend.
He's not bold enough to basically have a fiend standing in front of us, calling himself the kind of fiend he is, and
Yeah.
just like playing with us the entire time.
Yep. And all of a sudden
I
he's
was
just like, yes, I have horns and wings, and would you like to sell your soul to me? Thank you. By the
that
way,
actually would that
using
actually
that
would have probably
sword, yeah, I have your blood now, and that's a blood pact. When you die, you're coming to hell.
ah darn it. It's a good thing the gift don't believe in that. Bye.
Too bad. Yoink.
You can't get me up here in space. Bye. Hippo middle finger.
Well,
Yeah. I love playing that gift too. I'm glad I actually got a chance to play one.
yeah. I'm glad that Shelly never said yes to you repairing her gun because it kept him around, and I think he was a good replacement um, for Aton. And he had, you know, he didn't have a tie-in to the story directly, like the main story, but he had a tie-in to the group, which was Gemma and making sure that he protected her until he could service her rifle. And, and I thought that was good for a
Yeah,
role play.
Shelly at first loved the idea and thought it was
Hmm.
great, and then once it was actually implemented and put on the paper, she hated it.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can't stand this anymore. You're making fun of me now. I was like, I'm not making fun of you. The GIF is. It's what
Yeah.
my character would do.
Stop making fun of my poor dice rolls. Gosh. I got this feat that takes away -5 on my attack rolls, but gives me +10 on my damage. Okay, it's not my fault. I miss all my attacks. You told me to do this build. Wait for advantage and then shoot them.
It's a good build. When it works, it
Yeah,
works.
absolutely. I think it works better
Melee.
in melee. Yeah. Or if you're gonna do ranged, like do all of your attacks with a -5, not just some. Because if you do all of your attacks with -5, when it does hit, it's gonna feel good. But if you do a normal attack without the -5 and without the +10 damage and it hits, it's going to feel lackluster because it's not doing the damage that you feel it should.
Right.
Um, so that's just my 2 cents. But
So now that you've had a chance to sit in the DM seat for a whole campaign,
yeah.
uh, did you did anything come like surprising to you? Like, did you realize something you haven't realized before as being a DM versus a player?
I feel like I had this epiphany a while ago, and as with all things, I had it and then I forgot about it. um, but I mean, from doing the one shots that I've done before, and this was really the longest kind of thing that I had DM'd, and it really does give you a lot of appreciation for what goes into a campaign and the prep work. That being said, I prepped 70% of the campaign prior to us ever playing the first session, and um, then eventually after like 2 3 sessions in, I finished the last 30%. And doing that takes a lot of huge weight off my chest. But like, if I had to prep every week and do that stuff, oh man, I really do appreciate what DMs put in when I play. I really do.
Yeah. I remember when I was playing 4E because I didn't have any cool online tools. I was spending like 20, 30 hours prepping a week, building out the maps with my tile sets and stuff, and it was just it's too much work.
Yeah.
It's so much easier now with Foundry.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely I think I've refined my level of prep for sure. Like I've found what works for me. Once you start DMing a few sessions, like you'll get you'll find out what really works for you and then just kind of go with it. And then get into a groove, and then that's probably what you're going to do for the rest of your hobbying career as a DM. Um, but yeah, how I did it, prepping everything up front, probably doesn't work for a lot of people. And
Yeah, especially if things change.
right, I do say that I prep everything up front. If something changes, then I do, spot checks in between. That for me, doing little maintenance checks is much more manageable than doing the whole next session for the next week or something like that. Which I is probably why I will never do homebrew because homebrew would mean that I'd have to have the whole campaign homebrewed out ahead of time. And if I did homebrew, I want it to be more open worldy stuff, and I can't plan a whole world off the top of my head. That would take like 2 years of nonstop production.
Well, I think a lot of the homebrew world stuff, like even the homebrew world that I want to do, honestly, the players are going to be making up most of it.
Right.
Like I
And
have a couple of big cities and towns and whatnot, and a few NPCs, but like everything else is just like, oh, the player, oh, that's a great location. It
yeah,
exists now.
and that's what I've read is that's the best way to do homebrew is basically make your players create the world for you. And that would just cause too much anxiety for me though, because I'd want to control everything,
Yeah,
which is knowing that as a fault good because the best way to move forward as a person is identify your faults and then work around them.
yeah,
But I don't think I'd be able to work around that issue.
yeah, and that actually makes me think. Like the only real criticism I had, or only thing that I could definitely say was like, like a no go. Sometimes is sometimes you would speak up and like say what our players should say, you know. And so instead of us having a reaction to it, you told us what a reaction to it was. But
Yeah, there
you
was a
you 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 knew that ahead of time, and like
right.
it's storytelling sometimes.
Yeah,
Like I had a that was the only thing, and you knew that, and like it came and went. Especially
yeah,
once we had like a break for like 2 weeks, it happened again. But
yeah.
like as a DM, sometimes you get so wrapped up in telling the story, like you want things to go one way,
Well,
and
and
it happens.
I think in the more recent times when I said stuff for people's characters, um, it was that storytelling thing, but I think it was also me trying to expedite stuff, like
Yeah,
kind of compartmentalize interactions, which, uh, looking at it, probably going into running the campaign, that's not what I wanted to do.
yeah,
And I didn't realize I was doing it in the moment. Now that I'm looking back at it, what I was thinking was I'm trying to move it along so we don't stay stagnant. We're not just sitting here. We're not
yeah,
wasting time or whatever. Because there was in my brain, I'm like, okay, we have to get through X amount of content today because this is the second to last session before we finish.
yeah. And that comes specifically from being on a stream in a set amount of hours and stuff like that. You kind of feel, you know, tied down to that time frame. And I've been under that same pressure too. I understand that.
Yeah.
Um, it's much easier when you don't have that constraint. You kind of like go for it all together, and that's something like I think that's half the reason why whenever we've ended games on the stream, they kind of felt kind of like luster is because we're going to fit into like this little thing, and I've already announced that, hey, this week's the finale. So, well, shit. What if
Right.
something happens when?
Just
What if they
kidding.
decide
It's
not
not
to
the
kill the dragon?
finale. Yeah. Uh,
Uh,
Tune in next week for our
the real finale,
hour and a
maybe.
half of role playing for the finale. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's something that's unique to streaming, and
Yeah.
in a home game, you really wouldn't have that because you could just come back next week.
Well, yeah, and we could have decided to potentially postpone it, and because we have Shelly's one shot that we're planning on doing next, and then we have the Strahd one shot that we're planning on doing after that. And if we really decided that, oh, we couldn't get through the whole content to really wrap up the campaign well, which there definitely some stuff that we could have done differently, or I could have
Yeah,
done differently. But if we came to that conclusion, um, we could have just, it would have been 3 weeks or 4 weeks before we'd play this campaign again. But we
yeah,
could have decided, let's postpone it and wrap it up a little bit more, or we could have
yeah.
sidebars and talk about it afterwards. I mean, if we
But
wanted
that,
to, we could
yeah,
wrap
but
it
that
up
doesn't work for the
in
stream.
chat. I know, but
Yeah,
for players as
yeah,
people, it's about our enjoyment. I mean, yes, we stream it and we want people to listen and we want people to tune in and watch it so that they can enjoy it as well, because I think we put out some half decent content. I listened.
hey,
Right, right. I'm not gonna boost myself up and say that we're the best, but we're not bad. And if for our enjoyment as players and the DM, we could do stuff offline to kind of like give us that kind of wrap up. And there was a little bit of that went on when we finished our Frostmaiden campaign. Um, and I threw out some stuff, and then oh my goodness, spacing on names. But uh Dimitri also threw out some stuff about his character, what he was going to be
mhm,
doing afterwards. So while we said some of the stuff on stream, we kind of finalized our ideas and then sent them in chat
yeah.
afterwards for everybody to kind of be like, oh, cool. And I
So
even
how,
threw in a subtle hint about my character from Frostmaiden in the first half of the campaign.
so uh, so how long till you DM again?
Oh, I don't know.
We
I'd have to find something that I'd want to do,
gotta
really.
make Scruffy DM next.
Yeah. He's a pretty good DM. I was able to play like a short 5 session campaign with him at an earlier time on Saturday, which normally is not a great time for me. But he was doing a small, short little thing, and we did a not D&D, but it was a Weird West tabletop game,
Hmm.
and it was really unique and interesting. Um, Kind of a more narrative style than I mean, D&D can be this way as well, but we went a more narrative role play style with how we played that game, and
Yeah,
I think it went really good. If we were able to get Scruffy to do a DM for us Saturday nights, that would be, I think, if he found something that he wanted to do, it'd be really cool.
yeah. I gotta see how long I'm gonna run the first season ish of the Waterdeep one.
Hmm.
See how fast I kind of get through what I already have planned. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's gonna wrap us up for today. We've done our hour, especially last week since it was 3 hours long. I'll keep this closer to an hour.
Mm. Well, do I get to add to Craig?
Sure, you can always add the Craig. What would you
uh,
like to add to Craig?
I'm gonna give
DM
Craig.
Mike.
I'm gonna give Craig a feather, and it's gonna be like in his behind his ear. He's gonna have it tucked back there, kind of like how you tuck a pen or a pencil.
Yeah.
and it's just gonna change colors.
It's a
Kind of,
color changing feather.
yeah.
Common magic item.
Yep. It's
Feather
like
of
a
many
cloak of
colors.
billowing, but a feather.
I love it. Great, simple, perfect.
Yes.
All right, Mike. I said it yesterday, but I'll say it again. Thank you for filling in and DMing all that. You did a great job, and I look forward to you DMing again. And I look forward to
Absolutely.
you enjoying Waterdeep when it comes out.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad
Yeah.
I was able to come and we were able to bicker about my campaign.
All right. All right, buddy. I'll catch you later. And for everyone else, bye.
Ciao.